Huh. We return from the offensive with a major casualty: my capture software. Just about all of the audio from my reactionary footage was lost, and as you can see, the footage that didn't turn out all garbly and nasty still doesn't look that great. That, and, well, the game doesn't have much in the way to react to. Playing it was almost trance-like. It turns out the world of the Wild West is surprisingly easy to get lost in, and most of my reactions to the cutscenes and dialogue were either brief chuckles or silent, stunned reactions. Not great YouTube material when I look back at it. So, because of that, this week is just going to be the after-action report. I apologize for this real rookie mistake, and while I investigate further, the other console games on this list will probably be emulated. I do have the games either on Virtual Console or on other means, but if I'm going to record them, it may as well be in a way that actually works. So, frustrating recording issues aside, how was Red Dead Redemption? I'm probably one of about 10 people on planet Earth who thinks Red Dead Redemption isn't as good as everyone says it is. Don't get me wrong, it's one of the best and most atmospheric open worlds in gaming, and the story is up there as one of the last generation's most memorable. It's just that the game underneath all that isn't really up to snuff, in my opinion anyway. I may as well get the negative stuff out of the way first. This may be my stuffy PC gamer mind speaking, but first or third person shooting on a controller is impossible. Impossible. The only bearable shooters that are console exclusive rely on things like auto-aim, which is an inconsistent crutch that takes control away from the player. And when the player gets killed because the auto-aim decided not to lock onto that guy who's shooting you, it feels like you got killed by something you couldn't control. And that is frustrating as all hell. But what about Metroid Prime, one of your favorite games of all time? I can hear the comments inevitably saying. Yes, that game has auto-aim, but it's auto-aim that the player has absolute control over. You can hold on to it for as long as you need it to. Samus's movement becomes more nuanced when she's locked on, and you can switch between enemies on the fly. And if you're playing the Wii version, which as of early this year is currently the most readily available version, then it's totally optional. The Wiimote controls are good enough not to warrant auto-aim. In Red Dead Redemption, auto-aim is totally busted. It's tricky to get enough shots in before the auto-aim decides to leave you to it, and it has trouble interpreting which enemy you want to kill. When you're swarmed with enemies, and it's always when you're on horseback or near the end of the game, the auto-aim just can't discern between enemies the same way that the human brain can with a mouse or a Wii remote or something like that. I get why developers use it, especially when porting from PC to consoles. With a controller like the DualShock 3, using the right stick to clumsily aim is nigh on impossible without some kind of assistance. But when you're developing a game that is console exclusive, that doesn't offer the option of more precise shooting controls, you cannot half-ass something like this. But they did. And that's incredibly frustrating, because the game does just about everything else so well. The GTA mechanics, shooting aside, work incredibly well in an old western setting. It's a smaller world than something like GTA 5, and it has less stuff to do. But in that respect, it's a more isolated and contemplative world than Los Santos or Liberty City, which fits the themes of the story and setting quite well. The feeling of riding alone, with only a full moon lighting the sky, and hearing a coyote howl in the distance. This game gave me goosebumps aplenty. The story is about as westerns get. It has all the stuff you'd see in a late 60s western movie. The Wild West is disappearing into the twilight as trains and automobiles render the romantic vision of the American outlaw obsolete. The main character is a former robber who wants to settle into a normal life while his past won't let him. These are all old tropes that are cut straight from the cloth of old westerns like The Wild Bunch or Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But rather than feeling like a ripoff, it treats those tropes with respect, wearing them like a badge of honor. It's an homage, and a proper one at that. And while I won't spoil the ending, I will say that it is the perfect ending to a western that, well, ends the western era. And how cool is it that there's a true bona fide western game? When was the last good game that you played that also happened to be a western? This, Fistful of Frags, Call Juarez Gunslinger? Yeah, that's about it. There was a moment I wish that I had properly recorded, where John Marston crosses the American border and enters Mexico. If you've played the game, there's no doubt you know what I'm talking about. The sound effects quiet down, this song starts right up out of nowhere, and it feels perfect. This is a Western. It feels like one. It plays like one. Well, it played like one then. That moment highlighted everything I loved about this game. The loneliness, the vibe, the revitalization of old West cliches and tropes. It was an absolutely perfect moment. This is a game that badly needs a PC port, or failing that, better combat mechanics. It really frustrates me that I dislike the combat, because it's so full of wonderful moments that form a cohesive, memorable, and respectful whole. But, gah, the shooting controls just suck so much. It pisses me off to no end. If not a PC port, at least give me PlayStation Move support, or just something. Something better than trying to shoot with a DualShock 3. I mentioned the rumors of a current-gen port in my main list video, and now I know why so many people want one. I hope we get a chance to play this game with the combat mechanics tweaked, or reworked, or whatever. The perfect Western game. I can always dream. Next week, we move away from the cold loneliness of the desert to the colorful and saccharine world of Kirby Superstar. Let's tear it up! One more thing I really wanted to touch on. Right before I started playing this game for one session, I learned that Satoru Iwata had passed away. I didn't have time to make a proper tribute, after all. I had a huge game to finish in just a week. But right after I started playing then, I was hit with this really long trail. The music had all but stopped, and I just about lost it. I know it's not even a game that Iwata-san had anything to do with, but the circumstances of it all just... it hit me hard. I'll probably have a proper tribute in my Kirby Superstar video next week, but for now, I just want to say this. Thank you, Iwata, for everything.